Hello and welcome to SMPD. As you can see, I'm alone today. This is not going to be the norm, but I felt it was important for me to talk a little bit about myself and honestly, the history behind my opinions on a lot of these topics. I am very passionate about this organization and what it means to a lot of single parents out there, both women and men. I want to first reassure anyone that this isn't just about women. The unfortunate numbers is that, most women are, not most women, but mostly women make up the single mothers numbers. I believe it's like 7 something million and then 1 something million for men. So it's a big difference. That does not take away from the males who are single parents. But a little bit about myself. I came to the U.S. at the age of 4. And when I say the U.S., meaning Puerto Rico. And I moved to the States in 1995 with my brother, my sister, and my mom. My mom was a single parent. She had multiple jobs. She worked really hard. She was she was very strict, a very Caribbean mom. I admire the amount of work that she put in with 3 children. No education, not knowing the language. I used to see my mom like take the bus to get to work, work in snowstorms, like walk in snowstorms. I remember her just like, having to let me be in an elementary school, walk by myself to and from school because I was too close to take the bus. But a long distance for me as a little girl to walk by herself. But we've always been very self-sufficient, very resilient. But I think a lot of that has to do with my mom. So my mom and the type of parent she was, and this is me, because there's 3 of us, but I think perhaps my sister's experience is going to be different than my brother's experience and same. But for me, I think although my mom was really strict, she was also very loving. I think the Caribbean way is with, whatever you have around, either a chancla or a belt or anything that can be swung towards your head. But, outside of that, my mom gave us a lot of love, a lot of affection. My mom was always kissing us, she would make our favorite food. And we may not have had like, a tradition of like lighting a candle for a birthday, but like, she made us feel special on our days. And that to me mattered, I did adopt some of her ways in my parenting. I am a strict parent to a degree. I try not to create a space of fear between my son and I where I don't want you to fear me. I want you to respect me because I am your mom, right? I will never lead you astray. But also, most importantly, there were times when I was fearful of speaking to my mom of things that I feel like I should have had that door there to speak to her. No shade to my mother, because at the end of the day, it's what she knew. She did the best she could and what she understood was right as parenting, So I struggled a lot at the beginning of coming to the U.S. with language barrier, but it was very short-lived because I was, 6 months in, and I was transferred from bilingual classes to English, fully English classes. And I thought to myself, like, oh my God, what do I do? Writing was difficult for me. There was a lot of things that I struggled with, but I overcame. Thank God. I ended up going to college here and getting my master's degree as well here. And I'm very proud of like the work that I put in. But outside of that, I became a single parent in 2007. My son was born in November. 6 months later, so 2008, I'd say I was a single parent. And that was hard because it was a situation where we had planned to have my son. It was something that we were very much in love. At least what I thought was love, right? We were, you could say, high school sweethearts. But we were all over the place, to be honest with you. But essentially, we planned him. We planned to have him, and the plan was to have more. The plan was to get married. We had all of that planned out. And sadly, that didn't work out that way. I think we grew up at different paces. And after I had my son, I felt it was important to me for my son to see a healthy relationship where a man was treating the woman that he was with right. That meant being faithful to her. So that was critical. So moving on, I was in a place where financially I didn't have it, I think I was making at that time, I was making like $40-something thousand a year. And I was struggling to a point where I needed to get government assistance, and I have no shame at all whatsoever. So I used that as a tool, right, to help me get ahead. So, I was still going to school, I was still working full time, but I still struggled. And the way the assistant works here in the state, it was if I did not provide assistance to basically cooperate with DOR to go to court so that the other parent can pay child support, then they wouldn't give me assistance. So he had signed the birth certificate and things of that sort. So, my son is 17 now. I can tell you that support has been very, very, very limited, but it's okay. The reason why I say that is because I've gotten the opportunity to really show my son that no matter what anyone tries to put in your way to get ahead, you could still fight through that. There were times when my son needed something or wanted to play a sport and I didn't have the money. I didn't. And to depend on someone who, hey, Kaden wants to do this. Do you miss me? I'm sorry, how does that even come to the topic? But again, it was just a very manipulative circumstance, sad circumstance, but it was just historically the same thing over and over again. And the amount of child support that I was first given on a temporary basis, I believe was like $70-something. And he used all resources. This man even got an attorney to not pay child support, which I found it baffling because it was like, we planned him. This wasn't like a oops situation. This was a situation of we want to have this kid. And then essentially, the order's different now. It's like at 1 something. He pays it when he wants. Again, I really don't care. My son is fine. I bust my butt for my son. And Caden has, over the years, especially when he hit the peak of matureness, where he kind of just picked up on like, wait, this person really doesn't care about me, And I hurt for Caden because he's the most important person in my life. Outside of my mother, my nephew, like, they are everything to me. But obviously, Caden and I have been together his entire life, and I love my baby. He's a good kid. He's smart. He's handsome. He's respectful. I'm proud, and I hold my head really high to know that I raised him, and with the help of my mother. So I am super, super proud of the young man that he is, despite anyone's inability to want to pursue or even want a relationship with Caden. Over the years, a lot of the disagreements, I think, came from a situation where the sperm donor wanted rights as if he was like this parent that was involved and he was there in doctor's appointments and things of that sort, where to me it felt like you only want to be around for either a reason of, photo op, or he wanted to see me. Like it was just a very like weird circumstance. I cut it off very quickly and told him, if you can't be consistent, don't be there at all. Just don't. However, I always made it a point to make sure, like, hey, it's sperm donor's birthday. Hey, it's Father's Day. Like, I would always, allow my son to have that. I lied to my son for the first few years, but I would say, like, he's really busy and that's why he doesn't call. Because Caden would ask questions. I remember there was a father event at school, and his godfather showed up for him. Even though I had given him like a 2 or 3 months ahead of time, heads up. But he had no problem paying that flight to go to court. Essentially, at the age of 16, 15, my son switched schools. He was in private school from the 2nd grade to freshman. And then sophomore year, we moved from the city into a town, and part of it, registering and doing all the paperwork. And part of that was because my son had the sperm donor's last name, and him and I were not married. The lady called me on the phone. My son was in the car and we were driving, and she's like, hey, I need, proof that you're his mother. And I think for my son, that was like offensive, because like, whoa, what do you mean? Like, and that's when my son was like, that's it. I want to change my last name. And whew, it broke my heart, because I felt like I failed him in picking the donor, right? But I also understand that, my son is a blessing, and regardless, it wouldn't have been him, So we went through the process. His name is changed. He has my last name now. I did ask him, you could keep you could just add my last name and keep the donor's name, but he didn't want to, and I understood why. understood why. He, the letter to the judge, I remember him saying like, I really want my last name to represent someone who's been there for me. And again, it breaks my heart that he has to feel that way. But my ex-husband, Carlos, which you guys have heard me speak about before, has been phenomenal in the role of father when it comes to Caden. And for Caden, that's his dad, And I respect Carlos despite our marriage ending. I have a lot of respect for him with him being a father to Caden, and I would fight anyone to understand that they need to respect him as Caden's dad. So yes, so some of the topics that we spoke about in the show were controversial in the sense that again I feel very strongly about these things because some of these things I've experienced myself. And I'll touch on some of them, not all of them. But we spoke about the benefits of being a single parent, parenting, dating, child support. So what I could say about the benefits of being a single parent, like, I feel like for me, it was something that it benefited me because I didn't really need to have a permission to like do A, B, and C. I gained full custody of my son when my son was like 3 years old, full legal custody after there was some taunting going on the donor's behalf where he's like, oh, I'm not bringing him back. I'm going to bring him to Jamaica and you're not going to see him again. So for me, it was like, and I was broke. When I tell you I was broke, like I could not get on a flight and fly over there. And I remember begging my brother on the phone, give me money, like give me some money so I could buy a flight, like, because I was ready to go get my kid. And I think about it now, and I'm glad that he didn't pay for the flight because I probably would have been in jail, realistically speaking. But that was, it was a scary moment in my life. And I wanted to make sure that there was nothing anyone could ever say. So it was very easy. As far as custody goes, he didn't fight it. He never even fought for visitations or anything. Regardless, I never kept him from Caden. And Caden is very vocal about that as well because there is this idea in this person's mind that I've kept them from him. Like, no, the door's always been open. You have just chosen not to open it, but that's your business. Regardless, I think that would be a benefit. And as tacky as it sounds, listen, I get all the hugs. I get all the kisses. I get, he's my baby. I don't care what anybody says about it. He's my baby. He's my son. And again, 100% responsible for who he is. And I wear that with so much pride because he's amazing. And I could rant about my son all day, so let me stop. God protect him. So yeah, I think that would be a benefit, as well as just customs and things of that sort. I was able to raise him like, partly how I was raised. The donor is Caribbean as well, but very different, Caribbean cultures. As far as dating goes, that was complex. I dated a guy. I dated him for 4 years, and this gentleman specifically was my neighbor, and he was very interested in me, and we dated for 4 years. And I think the plan was to, get married and, have children and things of that sort. But My mom had always like had a feeling where she'd say like, I don't like how he looks at Caden. Understanding that I was head over heels over this guy, and I just was not seeing what she was seeing, and I would like try to look and things of that sort. And then when things hit the fan, it was obvious like this man really had something against Caden. I remember being, and this was like years after him and I had broken up, but like he was with like his new girlfriend at God, what's the name of that place? Cordova's. And my son saw him there with her, and he said hello to him, and he said nothing. He looked at him and just kept walking and ignored him. And Caden cried. It took everything in me to not go over there and kind of just like, take the drink and spill it in his face kind of thing. But it clicked to me that, God allows certain things in your life for a reason. And it was a blessing that we were able to walk away from that situation. And may the Lord be with you. Then I was in a relationship where the guy had lied about his age, which was uncomfortable because he looked older than I was. He was, 6'5" and, red hair, blue eyes, very muscular, and he was very semi-mature. He had some issues with hygiene and things of that sort, but and not, I'm not trying to bash this guy because, to be honest with you, he was really a nice guy. He just unfortunately wasn't thought right growing up. He had to almost raise himself. Funny story, he had like washed all his clothes together in my home one day, and I'm just like, you have your whites with your colors and your blacks all together. And I remember thinking to myself, like, has anyone ever taught you to do laundry? So, but I found out he was younger than me when I took him to a cookout, and one of my cousins was like, oh, I graduated with him. And I'm just like, what do you mean you graduated with him? Like, what do you mean? But that's okay. That's okay. We moved on from that. Essentially, I was single for about 4 years after that. And then I met my ex-husband, Carlos. We were together for 8 years. He was an amazing father to his daughters. Not perfect. He made mistakes. But he did the best that he knew how. But even the fact, like picking up the phone to just have a conversation with his daughters, that was, for me, that was big because, and again, I'm coming from a situation where, a donor is not even like caring enough to even pick up the phone and check on how my son is doing. So for me, that was a big deal. He had a job, always paid his health insurance for his daughters, paid his child support. It was what I thought was a good dad, and he has improved over the years on top of what he was already doing. And of course, I gained 2 stepdaughters out of that, which was my first time ever being a stepmom. And the way I came into that situation, it was really difficult because I felt weird calling them stepdaughters because like the word step sounds so like your stepchild. Like, I don't know, like it's just weird. So like to me, like I would say these are my daughters, like, because I know that if anything was to happen, I would jump in, regardless of the circumstance, just like I would for Caden, for them both. So that was something that it was difficult for me to stop. I still have a semi-relationship with the youngest, but no relationship at all with the oldest. And it breaks my heart. But unfortunately, circumstances were extremely, extremely volatile. And it was just, it was very difficult to manage, to be honest with you. But yeah, he's a good man, just not a good husband, not a good partner. And I can't say he's not, nobody's perfect, right? Nobody's perfect, but it was difficult for a lot of things, but that's not what this is about, right? Okay. So dating has been that. And I think even now with the marriage ending, not only am I healing from it, but also my baby's healing from it because, that's his dad. He's used to him. They still see each other, which is wonderful, and they still have a relationship with each other. I promote that and I want that. I don't want it to be a situation where someone's coming into my life and they're thinking that they're going to remove Carlos from Caden's life, because that's not ever going to be the case. So that's, dating, right? As a single parent, how glamorous, how glamorous is it? No, it's not at all. But yeah, so those are the things that I would say, I kind of struggled with dating, and I'd say that, to bring it back to the child support, I know I hear a lot of men that I interact with always say, oh, the court is always in favor of the women. Where for the most part it's true, because it is my understanding that at birth, the woman automatically has custody of the child because the baby's coming out of her body, right? But I also seen fathers who have fought in court. I know a few single fathers who have gone out of the way for their children. Nate, who is my first parent, who I introduced, it's one of them. And I think if you really want that, you really want to be there for your kids, you really want to be in their lives, there's nothing that could ever stop you from doing that. And if you feel like your children are better off with you, I think that's something that anyone, male or woman, should fight for it, regardless. Pierre and I discussed the use of child support money. The reason why I feel so strongly about the aspect of having the payer not have any sense of say in how the money is spent, because the household is, where the child is, right? That is the roles of that parent, right? And I'm not saying that, a woman is right or a man is right in receiving child support and not doing anything for their child and spending it in ridiculous things. But we also have to really process the fact that, the roof, if you guys end up homeless because you're not paying your rent, then clearly, right? But roof is being provided, light, heat is being provided, essentials are being provided. All of those things cost money. All of those things cost money. And in my circumstance, let's say, for example, now, right? At 17, my son eats about $300 worth of food just in 1 week. And child support for Caden right now is $125. And that's with like some backup, I think it's called arrears or something like that. I can't say it, excuse my English. But it is, circumstances change. And I can go file a modification and very likely get more because, again, this is my son's an athlete. He eats like a hippo. He looks great though. I don't know how he got 8 packs. Not for me, but this is a growing child, and the child support aspect of it to me is not very effective. I think the way they do the math is not effective. I've paid my son's health insurance since birth. So even that, and I say since birth, like where he's either had mass health, and then when I was better off, I was paying out of pocket. So, and with Carlos, he pays child support more than I'm supposed to get. I can't say I get because I really don't get child support on a consistent basis. I think the last payment that I got was just recently, and I hadn't received the payment in like 4 months prior to that. Again, to each his own, but it totals maybe 300 and some change a month. And you think about it and you're like, what am I supposed to do with $300 a month? In the event that I was not where I am now, that would be a huge struggle. And because he's in another state, I can pursue and actually go out of my way, get him served by a sheriff over there, get him arrested. I could do all of that. Do I care to? No. I don't have the energy, the interest, the desire, because at the end of the day, my son is going to see all of this and he's going to realize what's what, and it's sad. It's really sad. But regardless, financial struggles that I had with my son, like I mentioned before, like during sports and just signing him up for things, what I'm able to do now, I was not able to do then. And I think SMPD, it's really a source, right? A source for parents who want to put their kid in an AAU sport, or a parent that wants to put their kid in somewhere, do something, and can't, right? Wherever I found myself struggling, I kind of included it into what we want to do for the public, right? And I always wanted to give help. I just want help, right? I want to help because there's so many things like the government doesn't help with. Like, you can't go to the government and say, hey, my washing machine broke and I really need help, or, my son wants to play this sport and I really don't have all the money for it, or any money for it, or even seeing kids not being able to do something they love because their parent is unable to, breaks my heart completely. And school, like I had such a hard time with school because honestly, if it wasn't for one of my jobs, which I'm not going to say the name, they like modified my schedule so that I was able to go to school full time and still get my full time pay. I will forever be grateful for them. They were just amazing. They were absolutely amazing in so many ways. By the time I was in grad school, I was already, older. My son was older and he was kind of easier to manage. But like, I was breastfeeding and they had like a room for me so I can like they were just amazing. Like a bunch of amazing, amazing individuals that I really love wholeheartedly. From the bottom of my heart, I really do love them. You guys know who you are. But it's been a blessing to have people in my life throughout my life here in the States, and I've taken a little bit out of everyone. I've taken a little bit out of my guidance counselor. I've taken a little bit out of my woodwork teacher. I've taken a little bit out of my science teacher. I've taken a little bit out of my internship, the judge that I did my internship with. I've taken a little bit from professors in undergrad, professors in grad school, mentors. Like, I've taken a little bit from everyone to be a better parent, or the best parent that I could be. Because I try to improve every day. I'm not perfect every day. There's times when I yell. There's times when I'm angry. There's times when I curse. It's parenting is hard. Parenting is hard. But I would always say to always remind your children that you love them. I've seen some pretty messed up adults in my life, and I've heard their stories, and I've heard like their relationships specifically with their mothers or fathers. I can say myself, I think my relationship with my father has been, a key factor in how I am as a woman, how I am as a mom, how I am as a partner. So any parent, whether you are in a two-parent household, single parent, male, female, show your kids that you love them. Tell them that you love them. It is important. Do not get caught up in your everyday routine. I don't care how old my son is. I'm going to hug him and kiss him, and that's my baby. That's my baby. And he's going to know. And I try really hard to still do things for him. Like, I started to do this recently because I realized, like, I make him orange juice, like freshly squeezed orange juice, the Caribbean way. Because the stuff that they sell in a carton or in a bottle is just crap. Like, it's just crap. That's just reality. And I bought this little squeeze thingy from Amazon, and I started to go to the gym earlier so that I can come home early and make him his freshly squeezed orange juice in the morning. But I need him to feel loved. I need him to feel heard, cared for, understood. Although it is difficult to be a single parent in so many ways, it is so beautiful to hear my son say, "Mom." Oh my God. He has this deep voice, like, "Mom." There is beauty in what you get and the amount of love that you get from being a single parent. Now, I'm not going out there telling people, if you're in a relationship and you're happy and everything's go well, there's no toxicity, to go leave him just because you want to get more love from your kids. That's not what I'm saying. Please don't misunderstand me. But if you are in that circumstance, stay positive. That was tacky. But yeah, stay positive. Honestly, think about the best of it all. It's never going to be perfect. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. But yeah, but that's my story. That's who I am. That's who Sarah is. There's so much more to me. So much more to me. But if I do that, you guys will get bored and probably hate SMPD after that. So I'm not going to go into a rant, which I already did. So I thank you guys for watching. Make sure you follow. Make sure you share. I realize now that I have not been doing a good job about sharing the GoFundMe page. I'm going to start posting it in the Instagram page. That is really where I post like all the episodes that are on YouTube already. That's where I do the reels, the clips, and I'll post it on Facebook as well. And anyone that honestly has any kind of interest in helping single parents, donate. And any monies that we distribute would be distributed to the organization or program that the parent is looking to, either tuition for school or AAU for their kids. It would not be given to the parent directly. If they need a new dryer, washer, we would go and purchase it for them. That would be the way that that we would do it. And I would obviously show you guys what you guys are doing. Everything will be recorded, but it's beautiful. Honestly, it's beautiful to help. Just, I've helped a few parents with money out of my own pocket. Not because I want credit for it, but I've seen some of these kids like really have a passion for what they love to do. And, it will be awful for money to be the factor to kill someone's dream when there's so much freaking money out in this world, Any parent out there that would like to be interviewed, next week we're going to have a parent who I admire so much. She's absolutely amazing, a very close friend of mine. But any parent or anyone who has been raised by a single parent, you don't necessarily have to be a single parent. But if you were raised by a single parent, reach out. We'd love to hear your story. We'd love to dig your brain a little bit. But I thank you guys so much for tuning in again, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.